Hi, I'm Mary O'Malley, and I'm a GTD coach. And today I am talking to Kevin Kruse. And Kevin, I will let you introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Kevin Kruse, and I went through the GTD coaching program, and I'm here to share my experience.
Great. So, Kevin, one of the things that I want to talk with you about today is when we started coaching, you did the strategy course. And when we started coaching, some of the projects were marketing, expanding marketing for your business and increasing revenue. And then we ended up bringing in areas of focus and kind of expanding your GTD system that way. So I'd love to hear you talk about how areas of focus adjusted things for you. What were those areas of focus? Kind of anything that shows up as you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at this as an investment for sure. For me, it was, as an orthopedic surgeon, how do I improve the areas that I felt like when I had put the most time, effort, and energy into had gotten the best ROI for my practice was marketing was a huge part of them. And so, in your marketing, because you want to drive more volume through your practice and then create more revenue. So that was one of the main focuses for me was how do I execute my marketing at a higher level and organize it because it had gotten fairly complex and with the end goal of generating more revenue.
But we didn't stay there, right? We expanded areas of focus out to not just be about business. Can you say a little bit more about that? I think that's important to bring in here.
Yeah. So I think that when you start to look at everything that you're doing in your whole life, right? Like everything, you realize your life is so much more than your company and your business. It's your children, your relationship with your spouse, your personal health, right? Like your fitness, your diet, your shopping, your friends, the trips you take, like everything, right? It all comes together in terms of just what you are as a human being. And when you're running an extremely busy business, practice, life, kids, all those things have to be accounted for, right? Because, one thing's going to suffer if you're not keeping it in line. And so, I started this really as a focus on my business and my practice, but I quickly realized that there were a ton of other areas that I needed to incorporate into my weekly review when I'm looking at my life.
So this brings me to the next piece, which is you incorporated what you called, and I will always give you credit for this as I use this name now with other clients, a top-down, bottom-up review. So I'll jump in a little bit, but I would love to hear you talk about what that was.
Sure. You're doing this, because you're busy, you're running a company, a business, and you're trying to be more efficient. And so you start there with those projects and all the sub projects and where you're going. But then you get down to the list and you realize, this is, my relationship with my children and my spouse and my traveling and, what am I doing this weekend with my friends and my social life? And what I found was that, I'd always start at the top and I would go through those things, but you start to lose a little bit of steam because it's a lot. And so what I would do is every couple of weeks, I would start from the bottom. I would start down at, my things that I want to accomplish in life, right? Like, the list of things that you want to get done. I want to become a pilot, right? Or, I want to learn French or, have a house in the mountains, just all those things that, that you're trying to achieve in 3, 5, 10 years that are kind of dreams, but like real dreams, like, you can do it. And then the next thing up would be like, my personal well-being and, my health and my fitness and all those things and making sure that you put that in the front of your mind in the beginning. And it was very refreshing to me because it felt like, okay, now I'm giving that the time and energy that it deserves by just starting the review that way and not always kind of coming from the top, right? So go from the top down and then go from the bottom up. And what you'll find is that some of those things that are down at the bottom maybe need to get moved up, right? But you're coming to them with a little bit less steam and a little bit less focus because you're always putting them down there. And yeah, it was incredibly valuable to me to go down and then up. Down and up. Because a lot of this, like the focus and the energy in this is adding things, but it's also subtracting things, right? Like it's talking about like, okay, I'm not going to do that. Like, or I am going to do this. Here's where it's at. This is where it's going. But it took me the most energy to remove things. And so I had all these things I wanted to do down there, but then I had to be honest with myself. And yeah, just, starting at the bottom in the beginning was really valuable for me.
That's great. How did it shift things for you actually practically in the day to day or week to week?
It made me realize, I've got to get a lot of that stuff right in order for me to be freed up mentally to perform at work. Right. So like, I've got to give this more life force, more energy, because, if there's issues with your personal life and things like that, then it does eventually affect, it's just like anything else. If it's hanging in your subconscious mind and you're not addressing it, you're not dealing with it in a real way, then it weighs down your brain. Right? Yeah. It weighs it down. So you have to find all those little things that are hanging around in your mind, wherever they are, and address them. Like really address them. Either you're not going to deal with it or you are. And how are you doing that? And by doing that, it's like changing the door handle, like at your door that's been there for like 5 years and you need to fix it. There's so many things in our life that we do that way. Scheduling your kid to go get their teeth cleaned, right? Like stuff like that. If that's at the bottom of the list, then it stays at the bottom. But if you put it to the top when you review, then you get it done. And it's synergy, right? The analogy they make with plugging holes in the ship so you can make it go. There's a lot of little holes down in other areas of our lives that we're not plugging, like your diet's not right. Your exercise routine's not right. Your sleep's not right. Like all that stuff. If you don't put that focus on that, then you can't go make more money. You can't, or I should say you could always make more money, but it's going to be harder if you're not optimized that way. So I think you need to, go down from the bottom and clean up all those little plugs at the very bottom of your list. And then the top becomes a little bit more clear too when you come in the next week, right? Because now the bottom is clean.
And to be clear for people who are watching this who are like, wait, bottom, what are they talking about? We organize your list manager's Todoist, and we organize your Todoist by areas of focus. And the areas of focus, true for you and true for a ton of people, started with kind of business work stuff, because that's why you started Todoist in the first place. And then, and started with GTD in the first place. And then we brought in all the other areas of focus in your life. And so as we go down the list, it gets more personal as you go down. So when you review from the bottom up, you are starting with personal and long-term things, goals, vision, purpose, and higher horizon things, and then working your way up. So that shift in perspective really moved the needle, I would say, in big and small ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. For sure.
And then my other question, Kevin, is you did 2 inquiry calls with me a year apart. And the first one, you were like, I'm not going to do coaching right now. And it was largely, my notes say, because of the money, the price point on coaching. And also a little bit, you're a lifelong learner. You're a naturally curious person. You're I know you now to be just a student, like constantly. And so you also kind of felt like you could go do this on your own. And then you came back a year later. So this is kind of a common thing that happens is this coaching, it has a price point on it. And I'm curious what you would say to someone who is where you were that first call. What would you tell them? And what do you say now that you're done with the coaching? When you think back on the price point and the overall value?
Yeah. You come to realize, or at least I came to realize, that you can read a book, right? And you can get a lot of information out of a book. But when you have a personal one-on-one coach, it's a higher level of value. It just is, right? Like they know more, they have deeper knowledge, they've spent a lot of time. And it's not just like, oh, well, they've read the book too, but they've coached people, right? And they understand, okay, these are the principles. This is your unique situation. How can we most effectively apply these principles to your situation? And they have a different paradigm through which they see the world that's not yours. And that's advantageous, right? Like it's a good paradigm. And so they will show you things and teach you things that you don't know, right? And I think you have to, number one, humble yourself to understand that. Like you can read a book as many times as you want, but if someone else reads a book and they live and breathe that book daily, they're going to have a better grasp of the principles, or at least how to teach you the principles, than you will on your own. So that's number one. Number two is understanding the cost and just thinking about, your greatest asset as a human being is your own mind, your capacity to work and to produce. And none of us are even close to operating at our maximum capacity. We haven't even scratched the surface. It's like not even close, right? Let's take someone that's making $500,000 a year, right? If I get just 1% more efficient, more productive by focusing and looking at all the different things that I'm doing in my business life and my personal life, and spending the amount of time and energy you do with this coaching system then it's worth it, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's worth it. So, and to me, that's what I came to realize, like, wow, like I've got so many things going on right now, and I need clarity on where to focus my energies. And when I am focusing on them, to be more efficient, right? To be more efficient with my systems, and not just getting more work done faster, but getting the right work done.
Yeah.
And in order to be able to know, like, what's the right work, like, you have to be able to think clearly. And in order to think clearly, you have to have a clear mind. And if this stuff isn't cleaned up, it's really hard to have the clarity to focus on the things you need to focus on, to have the creative insights, to make those leaps, those big leaps with productivity, and not just, making more money and doing more things, but like just your own personal well-being in your life. Like, I need to take that vacation, or, how am I going to take more vacations, or spend more time, or spend more energy with, the people you love, et cetera. And so if you can't understand that, then it's not for you. But I think when you break it down that way, people start to, at least that's what shined it on me. And it was worth every penny. It was worth every penny.
Nice. Thank you. I have one more question, if it's okay.
Sure.
I have a particular passion in working with surgeons and people in the medical profession in this work. And I always say GTD coaches don't get into the skill of your job. I think people are really grateful. I'm not pretending to know how to do surgery or talk to you about that in any way, shape, or form. But I'm really curious, what would you say to like a fellow surgeon who doesn't know about GTD in terms of the application of this, not to surgery specific, like the OR specific, but all of the other aspects of your work that help you when you are with patients, let all that other stuff go and focus? Like, has GTD kind of helped with that? Have you noticed anything with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, definitely a lot of doctors are like running on, they do all these, questionnaires on burnout and things like that. They feel like they're overworked, underpaid, all that stuff. And people say, oh, they make plenty of money, but it's all perception. It's a perception, right? It doesn't matter if you're making $1 billion a year or $1. If you feel like you're putting in more than you're getting out, then you feel like you're underpaid, right? Yeah. And so, yeah, I think definitely getting this organized and having a clear mind, allows me to, when I step into the clinic, and also like it helped me realize, how to have a better, like, I needed to hire more people on my team, right?
Yeah.
Like, I need to have I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I do shoulder surgery, and I run the busiest shoulder surgery practice in the state of Texas, right? And I do it working 3 days a week. And I realized that in order to do that, I had to have a really large team, right? That was something that I needed to grow. Like, a lot of surgeons have one PA, I have three, right? Yeah. I have 3 PAs. And by having that larger team and training them, it allowed me to connect more with my patients, right? Because I'm not feeling as rushed in my clinic. I'm not feeling like I have to, get to the next person. I can sit down, have conversations with people, really feel like their energy, and like have them like know that I'm like here for them, and just feel more calm, more at ease, which then it actually speeds things up, believe it or not. When you go slow, it's fast, right? And like when people can feel that slowness, like the conversation actually just happens quicker, because they know, like when they look at you, like they can trust you, right? Because they can, because you're not rushed. You're not feeling that feeling, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely helped me just even within my own work to just be like more at peace, more at ease with all things. And so, yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about it.
Kevin, it It was such a pleasure to coach you. You are an awesome, awesome human. You are a very passionate surgeon, and also I got to know as a cool dad. So yeah, thank you for this time, and way to go. And I'm excited for all that's ahead of you, because there's a ton. So
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Mary.
For more GTD resources, visit davidco.com and David Allen's YouTube channel. To explore coaching, email info@gtdfocus.com or visit gtdfocus.com and click Talk to a Coach.